Everyone, welcome to the Awesome Deck and the Resistance Control Center with this problematic white guy. Before we get too far into this, I just want to let everybody know this is going to sound a little bit out there, but everything I'm about to show you is directly from the cited sources or was able to be verified using a AI scripted chat bot assistant through Copilot using Bing search engine. But I just wanted to make a video today based on what's going on this week in San Francisco at the Game Developers Conference taking place in the Moscone Center. And you may have seen a video that I put out on Monday that was giving a little bit of a preview based on their advocacy track that they have going for initiatives comprising of things of, DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion measures, or ESG, of course, which stands for environmental social governance. And, they've talked about things like, impact, making an impact in the industry and things like that. What that's actually referring to is this thing called impact investing, which is a form of funding that requires the people that are being funded to meet certain criteria to get the funds secured through the grants, loans, what have you. But it is called impact funding. If you want to look it up on the internet, you can find information about it. But it is tied in with these globalist initiatives to make a more representational form of governance that adheres to specific standards. Now, I was planning on doing a video today to just kind of do a midweek, mid-boss kind of, gate check on where they're at with the current sessions that have been scheduled and gone through. But in the midst of doing my research last night, I came upon something that just smacked me in the face so hard that I had to spend a couple hours doing more in-depth research. And so I decided that rather than save the information that I found there, because it just kind of happened in real time, and not have people make it to the end of the video to actually get exposed to this information, I decided that it would be best if I just re-recorded the video that you're now watching. And to that end, I want to go ahead and show you what it was that I found that was so disconcerting, is that it is far more than meets the eye. Its session is called Climate Crisis Workshop, Use Your Game Developer Superpowers to Fight the Climate Crisis. Let's pop that up really quick and then go right into the session guide itself. Now, you can see here they have a number of speakers that were part of the 8-hour event. And this is where it gets really interesting, because this is for the Game Developers Conference. And so they're talking about climate change initiatives to face the climate crisis that we're evidently going through, according to these people. But we see here the names involved. We've got Grant Schonkweiler. He's commander and Schonk at Schonk Ventures. I can't say that I know who this person is. I'll have to do a little bit more research, I think, on everybody, but I wanted to at least get to the important point today, which we'll get to momentarily. There's also Chance Glasgow, creative director at Good Dog Studios. There's Trevin York, the founder of Dire Lark. Arnaud Foyole, who's an art director at Ubisoft and Positive Play. And then we've got this person right here, Nidhi Upadhyay, who is the Deputy Director, Strategic Initiative and Partnerships for Arsht-Rockefeller Foundation Resilience Center and the Atlantic Council. Now, immediately I was taken aback because I didn't expect to be reading the words Rockefeller Foundation when it applies to the Game Developers Conference. And so my antenna went up and I thought, all right, this is strange, but I don't want to be, just outlandishly reactionary. And so I ended up doing a little bit more research, but the other keynote speaker, as you can see, just below them is Shane Hayes. And Shane Hayes is the associate director at the Atlantic Council. So now I noticed, here in just their speakers, that the two most prominent people in the list are both connected to this Atlantic Council. So I wanted to do some research on how the Atlantic Council and the Rockefeller Foundation have any kind of ties, what that's all about, and what it is that they're doing at a game developers conference, because that just seems a little bit interesting, I would think. And so we continue to look here, and we'll go ahead and just read through the description. And it reads as, this full-day interactive workshop returns for the third time, streamlined and improved to teach teams and individuals how to integrate climate change and climate resilience messaging into their games. Through expert lecture and hands-on design activities, participants will both better understand the climate crisis and unlock their own superpowers as game developers, immediately applying new theory and practice to develop an original game pitch by the end of the day. Join us and become equipped to impact gamers and ultimately change the world with actionable design approaches. So the takeaway from this session will be that participants will gain a deeper understanding of the downstream impacts of the climate crisis on individuals and understand approaches to build people's resilience to those impacts. Now, you'll see that word impact come up quite a bit. And again, this refers back to the impact investing that I mentioned earlier, that is about meeting specific arbitrary criteria set up by venture capitalist stakeholder investors, that generally has to do with such things that apply to the environmental social governance aspect of all of this. Now, it continues, it says participants will learn fundamental transformational design approaches and practice applying these approaches with guidance from the workshop leaders. Participants will leave the workshop empowered with knowledge, approaches, and processes necessary to add effective climate resilience messaging to their games. And it says the intended audience is anyone making games in any role, both individual and teams are welcome to attend. And unfortunately, the time that I'm bringing this to you is a day after the event, so it's not as though anybody can go and watch this thing since it already happened. But I did find that to be very, puzzling information to have at something that's the Game Developers Conference. I mean, it's just an idle Tuesday in the middle of the week, and yet you have this 8-hour-long session committed specifically to climate crisis initiatives. And someone might wonder, what does that have to do with gaming? But again, also, what does that have to do with the Rockefeller Foundation? And so I decided that it was probably in my best interest to do a little bit of research on these people. Of course, first amongst them is going to be Nidhi Upadhyay. I probably butchering her name, but she's the Deputy Director, Strategic Initiatives and Partnerships for Arsht-Rockefeller Foundation Resilience Center. and the Atlantic Council. And so it reads on here that Nidhi Upadhyay is the Deputy Director of Strategic Initiative Partnerships, the Atlantic Council's Arsht-Rockefeller Foundation Resilience Center. In this role, Nidhi supports the center's engagement in India and South Asia on climate resilience and adaptation, and contributes to the center's policy and finance pillar. Now, that to me struck as odd because now we are talking about direct money association between the Rockefeller Foundation and these things that are applying with game design. It continues, climate resilience through gaming initiatives and overall fundraising strategy. In 2021, she played a key role in the UN's Race to Resilience campaign. And so now the UN is involved in what is ostensibly supposed to be a game developers conference through this one individual. Led by the UN high-level climate champions, prior to joining Arsht-Rock, which is short for Rockefeller, in 2019, Nidhi was an associate director at the Atlantic Council's South Asia Center. In this capacity, she contributed to the center's policy research initiatives and managed programmatic tasks. She has held roles as a researcher with the policy consulting firm Bauer Group Asia, and as an assistant manager for the social media content management and strategy team at India's leading business news channel, ET Now. Originally from Mumbai, India, Nidhi graduated with a master's in international affairs from George Washington University Elliott Schools of International Affairs, which is located in Washington, D.C. in 2017. She also holds an MBA in media with a postgraduate in journalism from India as well. And then she only was presenting at this one specific session, the Climate Crisis Workshop, Use Your Game Developer Superpowers to Fight Climate Crisis. But this association between her, the Rockefeller Foundation, and the United Nations had me, you know, a little bit up in arms, to say the least. But not knowing what the Atlantic Council was, but the other keynote speaker, Shane Hayes, also being connected to it, I thought it might be best if I took some time to research what that all means. And so Shane Hayes here is the Associate Director, Video Game Initiative at Arsht-Rock Resilience Center. Now, of course, Rock being the Rockefeller Foundation. So Shane Hayes is the Associate Director of the Arsht-Rockefeller Foundation Resilience Center Video Game Initiative. Shane supports the Gaming Center of Excellence and works with AAA game companies and indie developers to implement climate resilient solutions in their games. Now, again, this is starting to just kind of like, why this? And what does this have to do with video game initiatives? You know, especially, you know, from the Rockefeller Center's Resilience Center's large degree of programs. This is a think tank. And so what is a think tank that is involved with the United Nations and the Rockefellers doing at the Game Developers Conference? You know, I often say that people show and tell far more than they reveal. And in this instance, I would say that that's kind of what we have going on, is that the show and tell is that there's a climate crisis summit session at GDC on an idle Tuesday where, you know, like the whole coursework is about all these diversity initiatives and, you know, ESG standards and all that kind of stuff. And so it seems fairly mundane. But much like magic, the distraction is the woman in the red dress. The magic happens in the mundane setting of the things that you aren't paying attention to because the distraction takes hold. And so clearly, you know, people will often show and tell far more than they ever reveal. And so when the revelation happens, that's when you need to pay attention. And so this to me was quite the revelation and stopped me dead in my tracks while I was doing the research to make me refocus my efforts on everything that I was about to learn from the following, further investigation that I had done. It says here, previously, Shane developed content for Minecraft Education Edition that has reached millions of students, including the platform's flagship series, Hour of Code. Alongside other members of the International Game Developers Association Climate Special Interest Group, Shane co-authored the Environmental Game Design Playbook, a groundbreaking publication that equips game developers with the resources they need to design impact games for climate mitigation and resilience. Now, the Game Developers Conference is put on by the International Game Developers Association, the IGDA. And so I was thinking, what does the IGEA and the IGDA Climate Special Interest Group, how do they correlate? And we'll get into that in just a minute. But I also want to point out that Shane here presented at another session called Building a Climate Resilient Games Industry Roundtable, collaborating between developers, scientists, and industry partners, presented by the IGDA, as well as the one that we have already mentioned, the Climate Crisis Workshop, using your game developer superpowers to fight the climate crisis. Now, I have already gone ahead and pulled up this highlight that is for the Environmental Game Design Playbook. Now, this document is 78 pages long. And so I just want to read to you a little bit of what's in here, because I need to do further research, because this is all, quite a lot to take in when it all starts to just wash over you and you see that it's all there in a centralized location, and they got the links to everything that will begin to paint quite a vivid picture. Now, this playbook is a 2022 International Game Developers Association copyright, and it reads, this publication may be reproduced in whole or in part and in any form for educational or nonprofit services without special permission from the copyright holder. Well, thankfully, this is educational, so we don't have to worry that we're violating anything. Provided acknowledgement of the sources made. Well, I gladly would say that this is coming from the IGDA website. There'll be a link down below. If you would like to do further investigation yourself, or if you would like to get a copy of the PDF, there should be a resource highlight that you can get directly from down below in the description area as well. And so it reads, the International Game Developers Association Climate Special Interest Group, IGDA Climate SIG, would appreciate receiving a copy of any publication that uses this publication as a source. There's no use of this publication may be made for resale or any other commercial purpose without prior permission in writing from IGDA Climate Special Interest Group. Applications for such permission with a statement of the purpose and extent of the reproduction should be sent to climatesig@igda.org. When you look here at the table of contents, it's got various sections, and I'm going to do a separate video getting into this document, because as you can see, it goes on and on for 76 pages of content. But it seems to be a way to go about implementing an ideology and how to carry it out throughout the various forms of game development. Like right here, part 1 is called, there's an introduction, what's contained in the document, and then part 1, which is called Outcomes, Introduction to Environmental Psychology. And I'm going to just give you the header names, because a lot of it just keeps repeating itself. We got after that the 4 key predictors of pro-environmental behavior. Under that is knowledge, and it shows there's an awareness knowledge, a systematic knowledge, an action knowledge, and an effectiveness knowledge. Then we have attitude, or how the process of learning can unlock intent, and then it's speaking about effective learning, normative learning, behavioral learning, and then we've got below that perceived self-efficacy, and then hope. And then the next thing, we start seeing that it's going to go into design theories, transformational framework, Oriachi framework. And then it asks the question, what are the key themes I should consider? How frameworks can bring us toward outcomes. Part 2, tactics, mechanics, and procedural rhetoric. The abstraction of, a conceptual example, why use it, what more about these tactics. Then we go back up to the top, we've got intrinsic integration. And then again, it starts kind of repeating itself based on the different aspects. We've got forced discomfort, which now we're starting to get into some very interesting, what is all this about? And like I said, I'm going to do further research into this because I believe that this is deserving of its own video. We've got the new goal orientation. We've got no-win scenarios, sensory effect, and we've got narrative tactics. And the narrative types are transitive learning and transformational play. And it goes into things based on role play, conflicting goals, investments in specifics, and then we've got mixed reality design. And then on the next page of contents, we've got locality and local knowledge, collecting scientific data, measuring devices. And then we've got systems knowledge and simulations, how systems knowledge is codified into system simulations, system realism, experimentation and inquiry. And then part 3, the bigger social picture, social being in parentheses. So I assume that they're talking, to the terms of like social governance and, all those kind of ESG kind of hot button issues. We've got social play, which is followed up by collaboration, competition, facilitation, and then there's the metagame, purpose and form of the community, sustaining the community. And then we've got defining next steps for the playbook, and then a page of references, and that would be the full contents of this. Well, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to read the introduction, and then I'll move on to the next part of my initial research, because like I said, I was hit with so much. I ended up staying up through the night. My power went out, and once the power came back on, I thought it was probably my best interest to just record this and get it out there as quickly as possible so that other people can start doing the research as well, because when this all began, we thought it had to do with one individual company that was somehow a hotbed of drama-inducing kind of narrative exploits based on DEI initiatives. But then as time went on, we were able to peel back the layers and see that no, these third-party consulting groups are just contracted by game development houses and their larger publishing arms at large. And so what we start to see is that the industry itself is pervasively being, inflicted with this conceit to DEI and ESG initiatives, as we can see, in the video that I posted on Monday. It is the cornerstone of GDC's implementation now in terms of what it's codifying into its teachings, to the point that it's directly listed in the About section drop-down menu of the website itself. And if you want to find out more about that, by all means, there is a link to that video down in the description below. And of course, you're always welcome to, do your own research into this, or try to get a hold of me. Look for Problematic White Guy on x.com/Twitter, whatever you want to call it. But you can find me there. And generally, I don't really have too much going on, at least until this story consumes my every waking moment for the next 2-3 months of time, because what I'm finding is only leading me to more questions and having to do the, necessary further analysis of what I'm discovering. But we're already at half an hour, so let's keep pressing along, because this is going to be a kind of longish video today, but the information is so important that I think that it bears a drastic interest of taking the time to see it through to the end. So in the introduction it says, does what I do really matter? How am I supposed to fight climate change when I just make video games? What can I do to make a difference? How can I be sure I'm promoting the right kind of change? Not, like that phrasing right there, the right kind of change. That's what you start getting, these ideological mindsets, wrong think, thought crimes, things like that. If you're not falling in line with this stuff, currently we see in the last few days that the Department of Homeland Security has gotten involved in investigating people that are being outspoken against the people that are involved in this Gamergate 2. The ADL has also gotten involved. And then today, the IGDA, or maybe it was yesterday, released a statement on what people can do to combat against offenders and harassment from people such as myself. But we're responding to things that were going on before we got involved, and to see that the Rockefeller Foundation and the UN are clearly connected to this year's GDC in terms of initiatives and planning for things to come, it starts to, just bring more questions into one's mind as to what is this all about? Where is this leading? Don't worry, I will show you in due course and time. Just stick with me. I promise it will be worth the wait. So it reads, if you're a climate-minded game developer or research, perhaps you've asked yourself one or more of these questions in an industry so laser-focused on technical innovation and return on investment. It's easy to feel powerless in the face of a global crisis. Releasing a successful game in and of itself can feel like capturing lightning in a bottle. Now you have to design for impact too. Now, again, there's that word impact, again, referring to, impact investing. They codified the language of, this corpo speak in a way that it comes off as something that's benign and very just innocuous, mundane, what I was talking about in terms of seduction. This is a boring 76 pages, I'm sure, unless you actually kind of start thinking what it is behind these words that they're using to mask what is taking place on a global scale. So we continue, it says, we, the community members of the IGDA Climate SIG, are here to tell you that you are not alone and you do not have to build from scratch. Developers across the globe, working in teams both large and small across all disciplines, are asking themselves the exact same questions. Many of these developers have already started taking action. Others may believe in the power of their craft, but don't know where to start in the context of their role. Others still may be skeptical of if impact is possible at all. Again, the word impact. So making, a social impact, an environmental impact, actually making this grand change. And so it continues, it says, the goal of environmental game design playbook is to establish a common design language for discussing climate action in games. So what they're basically trying to say is they want everybody to be on the same page. They want everybody to use the same verbiage, the same language. And so this is a reinforcement of an ideology. In many ways, this is a religious document for their, overall hierarchy of an ideology. And how do we go and teach this, belief system to the people that espouse these virtues and interests? And so on the right-hand column, we read here that it says, no matter where you are in your own climate journey, we hope to arm you with the tools you need to create climate messaging that's effective and helpful, rather than unproductive or worse, harmful to your design intent. Time and time again, developers have come up with new winning strategies for achieving tangible real-world impacts, many of which predate even the notion of climate change, or climate games, sorry. There is no silver bullet. However, there are some common threads shared by commercial and impact-driven games, again, there's the word impact, of all shapes and sizes. It is our hope that illuminating these tactics will set you up to creative, positive change whenever the opportunity presents itself, serving the triple bottom line of people, planet, and profit. So this is, still based on return on investments, making things be as financially beneficial as possible, which is, again, gets back to that whole concept of impact investing. If you want impact investment money, you have to meet specific criteria. That criteria is generally built around climate initiatives, environmental, social governance, and social governance itself is actually speaking to corporate structures, not like the government of your, nation state or anything like that. So a lot of this is about a techno-feudal corpo-fascist control state as it starts to expose itself through reading between the lines and kind of seeing how all this stuff is interconnected. Continues. By sharing these practices, we also hope to spark deeper conversations with all of you so we can grow this playbook over time with your help. Please join us on our merry adventure to a more environmentally conscious and climate resilient video game industry and future. And then it concludes on the About section here that we're going to read for right now. What is the IGDA Climate SIG? We are an inclusive community of game developers, climate scientists, researchers, and enthusiasts committed to supporting grassroots climate action throughout the games industry all over the world. For more info, visit igdaclimatesig.org. Got that ready here, and so we'll take a look at that website really quick. And it says here on their front page, we are building an inclusive community of game developers, climate scientists, researchers, and enthusiasts committed to supporting grassroots climate action throughout the games industry and interactive entertainment industry. And then we continue here. It says, how did we get started? At the UN Secretary General's Climate Action Summit in 2019, so 5 years ago, the United Nations Environmental Program, UNEP, in partnership with GRID, Adrenal, and PlayMob, established the Playing for the Planet Alliance, P4PA, an unprecedented international effort with 21 video game companies to create a 30 million ton reduction of CO2 emissions by 2030. Now, I don't know how many people out there have ever heard of the 2030 plans, but a lot of it has to do with a great reset kind of mindset of you will own nothing, you'll be happy. And when we start thinking about, recent service-based games and other, things in the game industry, making physical hard copy media a thing of the past, more or less, and only being able to get things through subscription services or, paying for digital copies of games that you can't actually, maintain a copy of unto yourself because they just consider it a service license and tell you outright that you do not own the game. You merely own a license to use it. So it continues and says, inspired by the original 2019 report written by Dr. Trista Patterson, the Alliance brought together major industry leaders establishing public commitments that could help inspire the rest of the industry to take on the climate crisis. We continue. As the work continued to evolve, so did interest throughout the game developer community. We quickly found that there were many opportunities to not only help spread the word about P4PA initiatives, but also forge more accessible entry points for individuals who are working at a grassroots level or are still in the early stages of defining what climate action means to them. Late 2020, we established the Climate Special Interest Group through the International Game Developers Association, the world's largest nonprofit membership organization serving all individuals who create games. So the IGDA is behind the Game Developers Conference, and now they're working in association with this new special interest group called the Climate Special Interest Group, or the IGDA Climate Special Interest Group specifically. And so they're not exactly the same entity. They're partners and affiliated, but they're not the same thing. And so we'll get into further in depth on that here in just a moment. But as you can see, the IGDA Climate SIG, in partnership with Game Devs for the Future, gathered feedback and guidance from game developers, game writers, game financiers, games and media researchers, climate scientists, teachers, higher education professors, marketers, and video game enthusiasts. These wonderful humans provided their vision for a climate positive and resilient future for the industry, the challenges blocking progress towards that future, and potential solutions that may enable us to get there. Working groups were facilitated to synthesize said feedback and define a path forward. So there clearly is a larger narrative emerging, and there is a much more in-depth plan than game developers just meeting up once a year to just talk about simple issues. This is a focused effort by what seems to be the United Nations in association with the International Game Developers Association through this IGDA Climate Special Interest Group that they have formed to create said affiliation and give people the appropriate backing or, guidance along the way. So we continue, and it says, this community-based participatory approach has enabled us to establish 3 major work streams for developers, resources, and most importantly, a vibrant Discord community with accessibility and psychological safety at its core. What are community pillars? How do we work? So there, we've got here, we've got raise awareness, enable great content, and promote efficiency. Under raise awareness, says build industry knowledge of the community engagement around the impact of video games on the environment with an intersectional lens. So they're talking about intersectional feminism and things that speak to those matters, making it more representational, all that kind of wonderful stuff. Under enable great content, we have develop and advocate for creative design guidelines and best practices that support environmentally conscious elements in games. Then, of course, the final one for the 3, promote efficiency, collect, develop, and advocate for power-saving software design patterns so that development time is freed up for more creative and experimentation, or more creativity and experimentation. I apologize. Below that, we've got unlock behavioral transference, which says support player and developer understanding of how gameplay experiences can translate into real-world outcomes. And then we also have cultivate and protect each other's self-care. Most importantly, break the cycle of crunch and burnout, which is often made worse by major existential threats like the climate crisis. So this is what they're using as the leverage point to get themselves into the game development design loop. Because, problem, action, solution kind of thinking, we need to plan ahead. How are we going to deal with this looming threat? If you can change the language, you can change the culture. If you can change the things that the culture speaks to and speaks about and how they, actually frame those arguments, well, now you're dealing with an ideological mindset set on overtaking what would otherwise just be an open forum of discussion. So we can see right now, emerging through these documents and websites, that there is a pervasive ideology that is behind the IGDA and furthermore the Game Developers Conference that has a deeper implication into how games and why games are currently being made, from large AAA titles all the way down to impact invested indie titles and everything in between. To create resiliency, we support each other's well-beings and protect each other's boundaries. Recognize that change doesn't come overnight, and we can do this together. Who is currently in the SIG crew? And then we've got here, let's go ahead and shrink this down just a bit so we can see who we're working with. There we go. Let's zoom this out. All right. So we've got here. No, actually, you know what? We're gonna have to zoom it in because I can't read these people's names. All right. So on the right here, we've got Andrew Brenwald, and that is the community organizer lead. And then to the center of that, we have Shane Haynes. She is the co-chair and climate jam lead. And then Arnold Feola, who has he, him pronouns, is also a co-chair. Down below, we've got Clayton Whittle, who's also co-chair and design patterns lead. And Megan Carricker, she, her pronouns. She is a representative of the marketing and communications lead. And Eco-Friendliest, which is a Twitch channel that I need to do more research into. Like I said, there's so much information here that I'm only scratching the surface in this first video because I want to get this into people's purview to do the research themselves as well, because there is far more here than any one person can cover. And just like we don't want to put all of our efforts towards Sweet Baby Inc. when they are merely a bad actor in a much larger system. Now that we're actually kind of starting to see where the funding is coming from and why it's happening, we should probably, while registering that the game development industry itself has become corrupted and influenced by this soft money dark magic, we need to start looking into what all this financing and collaboration is about. So the previous members of the SIG crew would be Paula Angela Escarada, she, her pronouns. She's the founder and former co-chair, along with Hugo Billy, I'm not quite sure. He, him pronouns, is a former CEO, chair, and other founder. Notice that this is the IGDA Climate SIG, not the IGDA. And so we're starting to see that this is a sister affiliation, perhaps parallel to it, but not the same thing. I went ahead and I just asked simply to Copilot using Bing search engine, is Nidhi Upadhyay connected with the WEF, the World Economic Forum? And it responded back, Nidhi Upadhyay is an accomplished professor, has made significant contributions in the field of resilience and climate change. Let's explore her connections. World Economic Forum. Nidhi Upadhyay serves as an agenda contributor for the World Economic Forum. In this capacity, she shares insights and expertise related to climate change and innovative finance tools that can protect cities from its impacts. So right now, what we are clearly seeing is that the person who is second to Keynote speaking at the event for this climate crisis session is directly connected to the United Nations and World Economic Forum, and also the Rockefeller Foundation. These are interesting things to have going on in the game industry when it used to just be a couple dudes in a room making a game because they wanted to have fun. But now we can see how much this billion-dollar industry has been overtaken and captured by large-scale interests that go well beyond the capacity of merely making games. It continues. Her work focuses on addressing global challenges by engaging business, political, academic, and other leaders across various sectors. She's also a member of the Atlantic Council. Within the Atlantic Council, Nidhi Upadhyay holds the position of Deputy Director in the Arsht-Rockefeller Foundation Resilience Center. So this is a group within the larger group of the Atlantic Council. Now, I have done some research in the Atlantic Council, but not enough, but to say that it is affiliated directly with the World Economic Forum, the International Monetary Fund, and various other major players in the geopolitical spectrum. So it also continues, her responsibilities include contributing to policy research initiatives and managing programmatic tasks related to resilience and climate adaptations. And then it lists her LinkedIn profile. On her LinkedIn profile, Nidhi Upadhyay is identified as the Deputy Director of Strategic Initiatives and Partnerships at the Arsht-Rock Resilience Center. Again, ROC is a shortening of the Rockefeller Foundation. In summary, Nidhi Upadhyay work spans climate resilience, innovation, finance, and policy research, making her a valuable contributor to both World's Economic Forum and the Atlantic Council. So at this point in time, I asked simply, what is climate resilience? And it responded back, climate resilience refers to the capacity of a system or community to anticipate, prepare for, respond to, and recover from the adverse impacts of climate change. It encompasses strategies, practices, and policies that enhance the ability of individuals, organizations, and ecosystems to withstand and adapt to changing climate conditions. Here are some key aspects of climate resilience. Number one, we've got adaptation. Climate resilience involves adaptation measures that help communities and infrastructures cope with climate-related challenges. These measures can include building stronger infrastructure, implementing early warning systems, and developing emergency response plans. Number two, risk reduction. Resilience focuses on reducing vulnerability to climate-related risks. Climate-related risks, sorry. A little tongue-tied after this much time. This involves assessing vulnerabilities, understanding potential impacts, and taking proactive steps to minimize risk. Number three, diverse strategies. Climate resilience is not a one-size-fits-all approach. Let's see. It requires a diverse set of strategies tailored to specific contexts. Strategies may include nature-based solutions, community engagement, and innovative technologies. Ecosystem resilience. Protecting and restoring natural ecosystems such as wetlands, forests, and coastal areas contribute to overall climate resilience. Healthy ecosystems provide buffer zones against extreme weather events and support biodiversity. Number five, social resilience. Building social cohesion and community networks enhances resilience. Communities that work together are better equipped to face climate challenges. Number six, long-term thinking. Climate resilience involves long-term planning and investments. It considers the interconnectedness of environmental, social, and economic systems, otherwise known as governance. So ESG. In summary, climate resilience is about strengthening our ability to withstand and adapt to climate change, ensuring a more sustainable and secure future for all. Now, at this point in time, I thought it might be good to ask, what is the Arsht-Rockefeller Foundation Resilience Center and what is its function? To which the response came back, the Arsht-Rockefeller Foundation Resilience Center, Arsht-Rock, is a vital initiative dedicated to building human capacity for resilience in the face of climate impacts. Here are the key aspects of its function. Its mission pledge. The center's mission is to strengthen resilience by working with individuals, communities, and institutions. They have pledged to reach 1 billion people with resilience solutions to climate change by 2030. Number two, focus area, extreme heat resilience. Extreme heat poses significant risk to human health and well-being. Arsht-Rock mobilizes innovative solutions to build resilience against extreme heat, improving the lives of millions of people worldwide. They bring together expertise to develop replicable strategies that protect communities from extreme heat impacts. Game technology. Now that one was just kind of like, okay, so this is what their insistence on being involved with the IGDA and the Game Developers Conference and game development in general is applying to. It says to address climate impacts, Arsht-Rock employs gaming technologies. These tools educate and equip players of all ages with skills to protect themselves and their communities from climate-related challenges, thereby enhancing overall resilience. Now, this could be things like lockdown measures, carbon credit offsets, all that kind of wonderful stuff. The things that people are kind of concerned about when they talk about a, globalist control state that wants to be able to, control everything through digital currency systems. This is the kind of stuff that they're talking about, and changing behaviors. As Larry Fink likes to say, you have to change behaviors. You have to force the change. And so if you can get the game developers involved in this, then you can gamify the system quite literally and make it so that people will have a risk reward benefit for going along or defying the terms of these larger dictates. So it continues, the policy and finance solutions. Arsht-Rock focuses on informed, purposeful, and effective action through policy and finance solutions. By understanding conditions and anticipating needs, they pave the way for new climate resilience finance and innovative insurance approaches for peoples, cities, and countries. Number 3, collaboration and impact. The center collaborates with various stakeholders, including governments, organizations, and individuals to create a path to a better future. Their work aims to prepare for, navigate, and recover from disasters and disruptions caused by climate change, ultimately building resilience for all. In summary, the Arsht-Rockefeller Foundation Resilience Center plays a crucial role in advancing climate resilience, protecting communities, and ensuring a sustainable and secure world for generations to come. And we continue. I asked at this point in time, what is the Atlantic Council and what is its function? And it responds back, the Atlantic Council is a nonpartisan organization that plays a crucial role in shaping global affairs. Here are the key aspects of its function. Number 1, mission and values. Driven by the mission of shaping the global future together, the Atlantic Council collaborates with allies and partners to address global challenges. It promotes constructive leadership and engagement in international affairs, recognizing the central role of the Atlantic community. Number 2, the Essential Forum. The Atlantic Council serves as an essential forum for navigating the dramatic economic and political changes defining the 21st century. It informs and galvanizes a uniquely influential network of global leaders fostering dialogue and policy developments. Number 3, area of impact, policy influence. Through research papers, generated ideas, leadership development, and community building, the Atlantic Council shapes policy choices and strategies. The second bullet point, free, secure, and prosperous world. Its work contributes to contributing a more free, secure, and prosperous world. Number 4, the history. Since its establishment in 1961, the Atlantic Council has examined political, economic, and security issues. It has administered programs that explore critical global challenges. Number 5, diversity and inclusion. The Atlantic Council strives for an inclusive environment where diverse individuals collaborate as global change agents. It values backgrounds, identities, genders, affiliations, nationalities, and races. Number 6, congressional relations. Members of Congress and key staff engage in bipartisan foreign policy discussions through the Atlantic Council's platform. In summary, the Atlantic Council's function lies in shaping policy, fostering dialogue, and advancing more resilience in an interconnected world. So what we're starting to see is that you have this global initiative that is conflating with private business entities within the game realm, the game development realm for media influence, along with fusing it to various forms of actual, governing of the world and local, regional, nation states. And so we have to start really wondering what is going on at the Game Developers Conference and the IGDA. What is its actual intention and meaning in these many recent years? We just want to play video games. We just want to have some escapism, but instead we're being, bombarded with these profiteering entities that seek to change the world in their own language. What does it all mean? I continue to ask more questions to see what I can find out. Is Shane Hayes connected to the WEF? And then I get my response. Shane Hayes is the Associate Director of Adrien Arsht-Rockefeller Foundation Resilience Center Video Games Initiative. Is indeed connected to the World Economic Forum. Here's how. Number one, role at Arsht-Rock. Shane Hayes supports the Gaming Center of Excellence within the Arsht-Rock Resilience Center. Now remember, ROC means Rockefeller Foundation. Her work involves collaborating with AAA game companies and indie developers to implement climate resilience solutions into video games. Number two, innovative approach. Shane's focus is on leveraging the power of video games to build community resilience and mobilize against the impacts of climate change. She contributes to creating engaging and educational experiences within the gaming industry. Number three, notable achievement. Shane previously developed content with Minecraft, I do apologize, Minecraft Education Edition, reaching millions of students through the platform's flagship series, Hour of Code. I'm going to have to do more research on that. In 2016, she achieved a Guinness World Record for developing the most downloaded Minecraft project. Number four, Environmental Game Design Playbook. Shane co-authored the Environmental Game Design Playbook, a groundbreaking publication that equips game developers with resources to integrate effective climate action messages into their games. Her contributions advance the intersection of gaming and climate resilience. So we are seeing that through these people specifically, this ideological conceit and concept is being infused into the dynamics of game development at a central level of access at the very top and in the very center of how this is moving the initiatives forward. Games are not being allowed to just be games. They are being agenda platform, and this is the structure that's making it possible. In summary, Shane Hayes bridges the world of gaming and climate resilience, making her a valuable contributor to both the Arsht-Rock Resilience Center and the broader global discourse on climate challenges. Now, this is all a bit concerning, so I had to ask at this point in time, what is the Gaming Center of Excellence and what is its function? And the response I received back, the Gaming Center of Excellence, COE, is a strategic initiative that focuses on advancing the intersection of gaming and climate resilience. Let's delve into its function. Number one, purpose and expertise. The COE brings together professionals with deep expertise in gaming, climate change, and resilience. Its primary purpose is to leverage video games as a powerful tool for building community resilience against climate impacts. Number two, innovative approach. By collaborating with AAA game companies and indie developers, the COE integrates climate resilience solutions into video games. These games serve as educational and engaging experiences, raising awareness and empowering players to take action. I don't recall them ever advertising any of this in any of the games that they've been involved in. So what's it all about? This is that whole thing about, thinking the right thing, getting the right answers, going about the right way. This is, preventing thought crime, as it were. This is the idea that we can frame people's ways of thinking, then we can change their forms of expression and how they carry out and manifest themselves throughout their day-to-day life. Number three, environmental game design. The COE contributes to the field of environmental game design. It develops frameworks, assets, and best practices for incorporating climate-related messaging and solutions within games. Number 4, impact and outreach. Through its work, COE aims to reach a wide audience, including gamers, educators, and policymakers. Now remember, COE means Center of Excellence. And the Center of Excellence is more than just gaming. It is the Center of Excellence. Gaming is just a division of the Center of Excellence. So that's yet another thing that I'm going to have to spend time investigating, or anybody out there is more than welcome to look into this yourself and help me expose more of what's going on beyond the, the thin veneer and the facial facade of game development currently, because there's a lot more going on than meets the eye at this point in time. So in case I didn't say it, it developed frameworks, assets, and best practices for incorporating climate-related messaging and solutions within games. Number 4, impact and outreach. Through its work, the COE aims to reach a wide audience, including gamers, educators, and policymakers. So, people in government. By fostering creativity and innovation, it contributes to a more resilient and informed global community. In summary, the Gaming Center of Excellence bridges gaming and climate resilience, harnessing the potential of virtual worlds to address real-world challenges. So when you talk about the modernity and everything like that, how we can't have escapism, this is what we're referring to. And so I, at this point in time, just had to ask, is the IGDA separate from the IGDA Climate SIG? Because as I said, it was starting to seem like these aren't exactly the same thing. They're just conflating, some kind of semblance of, similarity. Copilot responds back to me. The International Game Developers Association, IGDA, is the world's largest nonprofit member organization serving all individuals who create games. It brings together game developers from various fields, including programmers, designers, artists, writers, business people, and more. The IGDA fosters professional development, connects members with peers, and advocates for game developers' interests globally. On the other hand, IGDA Climate Special Interest Group, IGDA Climate SIG, is a grassroots affiliate of the United Nations, Playing for the Planet Alliance. So again, we are now seeing that the UN, the World Economic Forum, and all this claptrap that has nothing to do with games is spearheading its efforts into the game development process. What is the purpose of this, if not to change people's ways of thinking and ways of being? This is a full-out assault on us as individuals and trying to make us into a hive mind collective. Now, I will continue. It says the International Community Group focuses specifically on building accessible and actionable developer resources and support for sustainability, resiliency, and climate action within the video game industry. The IGDA Climate SIG actively works on game design, carbon footprint reduction, and climate council advocacy. And so that carbon footprint reduction refers to, again, you won't own anything and you'll be happy. You won't actually have a copy of the game you want. But it also refers to, as I was saying earlier, carbon credits and their aspect of interconnectedness to a digital currency system. They are, in essence, tokenizing us one and all, which oddly enough is part of the reason why this particular series is named Insert Tokens, because I kind of knew in some weird way this was all about, precious gems and deflection tactics to marginalize us all and get us all under the, equitable boot of oppression that will leverage us all equally as we are being squashed into the ground. In summary, while the IGDA is the overarching organization for game developers, the IGDA Climate SIG is a specialized group within the IGDA that concentrates on climate-related initiatives in the game industry. So it's a shell within the shell that also, relates to the other shell, because the IGDA is also behind the Game Developers Conference, behind this climate. And so what you're seeing is that the Game Developers Conference is a way to fuse these efforts out in the open and have people not even pay attention to what is ostensibly going on for at least the last 3 years that they've been doing these sessions. But even further still, when you look at the timeline of events that brought these committees and action groups and whatever you want to call them into manifestation. We've got the Adrian Arsht-Rockefeller Foundation Resilience Center. The Adrian Arsht-Rockefeller Foundation Resilience Center builds human capacity for resilience of climate impacts. We pledge to reach 1 billion people with resilient solutions to climate change by 2030. I'm going to go further in depth in this in a coming video. I just want to touch on these quickly since we're already over an hour that I've been talking about these matters, and I don't want to lose anybody. And so we can just kind of see that they have their hand in all sorts of things. Here it mentions the gaming technology. With an increasing urgency to address the impacts of climate change, we need innovative solutions addressing the impacts, of climate change to reach many people at once as soon as possible, equipping them with tools to build resilient communities. Arsht-Rock will use gaming technologies to educate and equip players of all ages with the right skills to protect themselves and their communities from climate change, increasing their resilience. So there's a link there. We won't go into it this time, but I will definitely do more research into this in the coming days. And then we can see that the innovative policy and finance. So all these things is what it's referring to. Extreme heat. So climate change, games, and money. This video that is 2 minutes long, and I don't know necessarily if they'll try to flag me for something, but I'm going to go ahead and let's see. Go ahead and unmute that. And then let's take a look at the Atlantic Council 2023 in review. I might have the volume off on this, but you can at least kind of see who the people are that are involved with the council. I'll have a link to the YouTube video itself, and then to wider YouTube channel itself. I'll put both of them there just for ease of reference. But as you can see, they are totally caught up in things that involve the World Bank, various global leaders across various countries and nations. It's about inclusive fusion energy future. Let's see, we've also got in here, my internet is being quite chunky, much like Hillary Clinton. And then let me go ahead and get that to play again. There we go, play. Yeah, I've been having all sorts of interesting electrical and internet connection issues since I started doing research on this last night. I don't want to say that it's anything to do with this directly, but it is odd, to say the least. Come on. So we've got these various world leaders, people that are at all these large events, all funded or held by the Atlantic Council. And so what we see here is that this is a globalist think tank that's trying to affect the way that the world moves forward. Again, we have to just simply ask, what does this have to do with making video games? Why is this something that is so centrally connected to game development through the IGDA and the Game Developers Conference, to the point that it is involved with 21 different gaming companies directly by their own admission through their various forms of media and the research that I've done today. So let's see where we're at on the video. We're coming right up to the end. And so we'll just let this play through, and then I'm going to give a little bit of my thoughts on the matter, and we will call it good from here. This is all very strange. I don't know what it all means, but it is all connected. And because of those connections, I wanted to bring it to everyone's attention so that we can widen our focus and see the ever, expanding vista of how much impact these investments are putting into our game development and game design, so that at the end of the day, you and I aren't able to just play games for the means of escapism. We are directly being fed an agenda coming from a globalist think tank and trying to affect the way that we live our lives now and going into the future. So again, thank you for taking the time to spend with me today. And, I appreciate you stopping by the command center here at the Awesome Deck to spend some time with this problematic white guy. Again, please like, subscribe, comment, engage with me however you feel is necessary. But beyond that, I will be back with you as soon as possible. And so in that regard, you all have a fun-filled remainder of the day. Excuse me. You all have a fun-filled remainder of the day. Wonderful week ahead. Safe travels wherever you may go. And by all means, be awesome as always. And we will talk to you again as soon as possible.